Hello and happy Monday.
Yes, it is Monday. I'm on vacation right now.
So jealous.
I'm so excited. But I'm also like, I was talking to Nick about it last night, and I was like, I am so stressed about everything that I have to do before we leave. And he goes, you hate vacation. I was like, I don't hate vacation. It's just very stressful. Like when you run a business, everything that you feel you need to prepare ahead of time so that like you can actually not work as much and relax.
Yeah.
And then I need to pack the entire family because obviously Nick is not going to pack our children, nor do I trust him packing our children. I love him, but that's just not a strong suit. My husband actually, I saw a really funny TikTok the other day that was like, the one parent that never is concerned about a child getting injured, and you see like a baby doll like thrown down the bottom of the stairs, and then the dad's holding him, and it was like, it just scared him. He's scared. He was just a little scared. It's like the baby threw down the stairs. Like that's my husband. It's like when I talk about how our kids have been nonstop sick and I feel so bad, he's like, they're fine. I'm like, they've literally been sick for the past 3 months. Like they're obviously not fine. That's our relationship. But anyways, he's like, you hate vacation. I was like, I don't hate vacation. It's just, I have to pack our entire family. And then the timing of these CrossFit quarterfinals that I almost don't even want to do because I feel like I'm going to hurt myself. Like I'm not used to the volume. I have to try and finish the 5 workouts in 2 days before we leave.
And you've been getting injured lately.
I've been getting injured lately. But the injuries have been ridiculous. Like yesterday, I hit my elbow on a railing in our garage coming down from a handstand push-up. Like I didn't injure during the movement. It was like coming down from the movement. I nailed my elbow and it like bruised it pretty bad to where push-ups kind of hurt.
Yeah. But
I think I realized today that it's literally just bruised. And then I decided I can't work out at 5:15 in the morning because my body just is not awake. I've pulled my neck muscle so many times in the morning because I think I'm just like not warmed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like I was texting you yesterday. We don't spend enough time on mobility because we're trying to get it done quickly.
Yes.
And then my hip, it's like your hip is just not doing what it needs to do. And I was like, I know, because it's just stuck. I just get there and I'm stuck. Whatever. I'm still increasing weights and it's fine, but it's just frustrating, especially as you age. Like you feel it in different ways. So yes. I don't think you're at the crazy point yet with the CrossFit games.
No.
But
No. And like I told my coach, I was like, I just want these quarterfinals to be done because I feel like I'm like stressing over them and I'm like adjusting my training because of them. And I hate doing that. Like, I just want to train. I just want to do my training, how it should be done. Not like during the open, I had to like take multiple days off or adjust workouts because of the workout that was happening. Like I hate doing that. So I'm just ready for those to be done and ready to be on vacation and in warm weather and have the, babies have fun with the beach and all the things.
It'll be good for you guys to get away.
Yeah.
Taking care of your kids in a different location.
Exactly.
Sunny Florida.
It's not vacation when you're a mom. You just take care of your children elsewhere.
Everybody keeps asking me if we're taking Marcus with us to Nashville. And I'm like, nope, just Art and I. 3 days. We're going to be there. We're quick trip in and out. So we will see. All right. I'm really excited. Let's dive into this. It's probably going to be a little bit of a longer episode today, but this is a very, very important topic. And it's very important because many people do not understand how our diet, meaning the nutritional intake that you consume, not great food or great food, right? How does that impact your memory and how can it drive cognitive decline? And there's so many good nuggets in today's podcast. I'm really, really excited to get into this because again, I think not everybody understands, that what you eat or what you don't eat has a direct impact on your memory, positively or negatively. And we've got some crazy stats because you guys know that we love fun facts, sharing crazy stats with you. So we'll link out some of the articles, some of the research, the websites, that we're going to reference today in the podcast. If you want to dig into this a little bit more, and if you guys have questions, feel free to always, reach out or shoot us a message. But there's a lot of research coming out more and more around the development of early onset Alzheimer's and cognitive decline. And so it's just a really important concept for you guys to understand, especially if you are not focused on good quality nutrition. Or maybe you have somebody in your family that needs to hear this who has wanted to make a change, but has struggled to make a change. And sometimes, Becca and I really believe that when you have the education and the knowledge, that gives you power and you can put that to use, right? Knowledge basically drives compliance and adhering to things. And this is far beyond weight loss. So what I would ask as we go into this podcast is that you open your mind and honestly your heart to understanding this information, and don't think about weight or the scale. I want you to think about longevity. So when we look at goals with our clients, we talk about a few different types of goals. We either have aesthetic goals, right? The way you want your body composition to look. You have performance goals, what you want to do in the gym, the ability that you want to have, whether it's endurance or strength. And then we have longevity, and that is extending life and focusing solely on health and optimizing your health.
Yep. So like Liz was saying, we kind of want to touch mainly on the cognitive aspect of how our diet affects your brain function, potentially Alzheimer development down the line. And a lot of people think of diet as like calorie restriction and, you know, cutting down carbs or whatever it is. But in the world of nutrition, the word diet means essentially like an eating approach, you know, something that provides you with the foods that contain sufficient nutrients and help you function well, help your body be in an optimal state. And that is to support brain function, to support cognitive development. We always think food and diet in terms of weight, never in terms of like your organs functioning how they should function, because that is ultimately what food helps us do, or not do. And so sugar in particular is extremely correlated with Alzheimer's and dementia. And Alzheimer's actually is now being referred to as type 3 diabetes by a lot of, you know, areas in medicine and research, because it is directly correlated with our diet. Unfortunately, kind of like abbreviating the explanation, which we're going to dive into deeper. But essentially, when you become insulin resistant, which is what happens with type 2 diabetes, that isn't just cells, you know, in the neck and down, like that is brain cells as well. And so when you are not able to utilize energy in brain cells from the food that you're consuming, they don't work as well. And when brain cells are not working as well, cognitive function declines. And so insulin resistance happens in brain cells as well. And so the cells cannot use energy. They cannot get the nutrients in they're supposed to. And then we see Alzheimer's be a result of insulin resistance. And the scary thing is that this is happening in younger and younger populations. And we actually have a friend that was on the podcast quite a while ago that works within a clinic that specializes in type 2 diabetes and reversing insulin resistance. And he talks about 30-year-olds, 30 young 40-year-olds coming into clinic all the time. And like, I can't remember things. I feel like I have a ton of brain fog. And this is a lot of times how it presents. And so I think the statistics that we're going to share, which are terrifying, are also probably underreported. I think that it's probably worse than it may even seem. So a lot of people struggle with this. They may not even have diabetes yet. And they don't realize that the elevated blood sugar levels or these blood sugar swings are essentially toxic to the body. You know, we always think of like, oh, well, I went all day without eating and then I was ravenous and then I ate a ton of food at night and then I was like really sluggish and lethargic. You guys, those huge swings in blood sugar that are happening, that are you not eating all day and causing this big decline in blood sugar that is way below where you should be, is just as unhealthy as going far beyond the high level that you want to be under. So I think we need to understand that both of those things are not good. Both of those things create toxic situations for our cells. But just let's look at the facts. And we pulled these from CDC. We pulled these from Blue Cross Blue Shield website. So we're pulling them from the government, you know, and the reporting that we have from there.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you know, it's interesting because there's never been a crisis to lower blood sugar. And so we've talked a lot on the podcast about importance of stabilizing your blood sugar levels, right? Keeping that stable throughout the day, not taking those big highs, not dropping too low. But we can thank our food industry. Instant gratification, cravings, all of those things, and hyper palatable foods, hyper palatable foods, and ingredients in our processed foods for these statistics that we're going to share with you. So quick facts here on diabetes. This was as of January 18th, 2022. So we're going to break this down into two categories: diagnosed diabetes and pre-diabetes. So diagnosed diabetes, 37.3 million people have diabetes. That's 11.3% of the US population. Diagnosed is 28.7 million people, including 28.5 million adults. Okay, undiagnosed in this category is 8.5 million people, 23% of adults that are undiagnosed. Okay, then we're going to look at pre-diabetes. So pre-diabetes, in total, there are 96 million people aged 18 and older with prediabetes. That's 38% of the US population. And this is based upon fasting glucose or the A1C levels, which is a 3-month view of your blood sugar levels. However, only 19% of adults reported that they were told by a healthcare professional that they had this condition. So as I was reading through these things, the question becomes why? Why is that, basically half of the people who are pre-diabetic were told by their physician? Well, some doctors don't mention it if you're not too high, right? You're not in that disease state or, borderline disease state. Some doctors don't look back at previous labs either to see what your trends are. And that's very important. We've caught a lot of our clients trending the wrong direction with cholesterol, with A1C, with fasting glucose. And so we can reverse these things before it becomes an issue and their doctor is saying something to them. Okay. And so this is the thing is like, you can't just look at fasting glucose because that's a snapshot in time. There's a lot of things that can impact your fasting glucose, even to the point of how many hours you have fasted. So research has actually shown fasting more than like 12 to 14 hours will give you a skewed fasting glucose result because now you're experiencing an increase in blood sugar levels because your body is creating blood sugar. And so it's not actually an accurate reading. So this is why we like to look at 2 other big markers. And one of them is the A1C, again, your 3-month average, as well as your cholesterol markers. So your triglycerides, your HDL, your LDL, there's some things that we can look at there to see, like, are we insulin resistant or are we on the brink of being insulin resistant, right? There's some formulas that we run for our clients. So other fun facts here, or maybe not so fun facts, is that a higher percentage of men than women had prediabetes based upon the glucose levels, right? The A1C levels. And the prevalence of prediabetes was similar among all racial and ethnic groups and educational levels. So this is not one group is struggling. Let's say people who make a lot of money and they're working in a corporate and they have, busy lives. And so they eat out a lot or they travel a lot. And so they're eating out a lot. Guys, this is across all racial and ethnic groups and all educational levels. That also means income levels. So hear us when we say like, this is a pandemic. And it is something that is starting to impact us more and more. And we'll dive into some other crazy stats and, related to dementia and Alzheimer's. But we got to understand like, where does this come from? And so I think the best thing to do is kind of, let's talk about like the traditional diet. Becca and I talk about this all the time. What did we grow up eating for breakfast?
Cereal, toaster strudels, Pop-Tarts.
Bagels.
Yep, bagels. And that was like, I remember pasta parties for sports. And there's some sense to that. You want a carb load before sport. But like when you're a high school athlete and you're playing like 15 minutes in a basketball game the next night, you don't need to carb load the day before. But yeah, it's the traditional Western diet where let's look at the food pyramid, which I know has shifted and it's now become like the My Plate thing. But like growing up, the food pyramid was the base of that pyramid was like 7 to 11 servings of grains each day. And, proteins and fats were at the very top of that. And it's like, we are completely messing up with blood sugar because you're getting, a bowl of cereal in the morning or even just a cup of cereal. So a cup of cereal is 30 grams of carbs, which turns into about 7.5 grams of sugar within the body. That's not a great way to start your day. That's not going to be very balanced. What helps balance blood sugar? Fiber and protein and fat. And so when you're having these pure carbs in the morning, you're not pairing them with a fat. You're not pairing them with a protein. We've even talked about how if you have these carbs and you eat them last in a meal, it helps with blood sugar as well. So if you have a meal that, for example, is a couple eggs, maybe a slice of bacon or 2, and then you have, like gluten-free waffles, or you have some oatmeal, or you have some toast, eating those carbs last after the protein has been shown to have less of an effect on blood sugar. So you don't see as much of a blood sugar spike as if you were to eat those carbs first, because your body is getting things into the system to help stabilize blood sugar. Protein and fiber and fats help do that. They help slow the blood sugar response to be more leveled, which is why a lot of people don't end up sluggish and tired when they eat balanced. When you eat all pure carbs or you've gotten to a place where you're insulin resistant, unfortunately, you probably experience that post-meal either hunger an hour or 2 later, or your eyes are getting heavy and you need the cup of coffee now, or you need, the Diet Coke or the energy drink or whatever it is that you keep yourself going with during the day. So in terms of cognitive function, sugar actually shrinks your hippocampus, which is the kind of the memory center of your brain. And this is why we're seeing it more and more in younger people. Like, this is what scares me. This is what scares me for the health of our country, the health of our world, is that it's happening to younger and younger people. Like, type 2 diabetes should not be an issue in children. It's an issue in children. It is completely shifting how, we're having to manage food for our population, and people don't think about that. So some crazy statistics, which are from the Blue Cross Blue Shield website. Between 2013 and 2017, the diagnosis rates of early onset dementia and Alzheimer's have increased 407% in ages 30 to 44. 407%. In ages 45 to 54, 242%, and in ages 55 to 64, 90%. So overall, between ages 30 and 64, early onset dementia and Alzheimer's is up 200%. What's scarier is that the average age for people living with early onset or Alzheimer's is 49, and it's more common in women, 58% higher. So 58% of people with this are women, the other 42% are men. So women are experiencing this more, which to me kind of makes sense. Women struggle with weight more later on in life. They don't have as high of a muscle mass content. And I think like the chronic dieting and yo-yo dieting that causes a lot of insulin resistance in women is a big thing.
Well, yeah, not to mention, menopause, right? There are some things that are common denominators with menopause. We are a little bit more insulin resistant. We don't sleep enough, moody, right? What does that drive? Emotional eating. Again, under eating. A lot of ladies that come to us and work with us have done multiple diets. And so they've trained themselves to not eat essentially for hours, or they will go, throughout the day eating 400 to 500 calories, maybe 600 calories if they're lucky, and then overconsume at nighttime, right? So their blood sugar is just all over the place. And I think a lot of ladies are in that, age group, at least afraid to lift and be active, or they're living very, very busy lives. And when, menopause hits and they start getting hot flashes and they're not sleeping well, what's the first thing to go? Exercise and movement for a lot of people, because they're exhausted, and I don't blame them for that, right? And so it's like, how do we manage through these things? And the answer is, the more you know, the better that you can do. And so this is, why we're sharing this podcast today, because there's a lot that you can do nutritionally, even outside of just, blanket stating like balanced meals or lose weight, and, things are going to get better. And it really comes down to inflammation in the body, because that plays a huge role. And I just wanted to quickly call out before we kind of move on is there's a couple of books called the Grain Brain, and they talk a lot about like gluten and how gluten is created here in the US and how that can cause brain fog. And so some people think that it's, directly correlated to gluten. Some people think it's correlated to other dysfunction in the body, such as like thyroid issues. Guys, I can tell you I have Hashimoto's, and I've had Hashimoto's for years now. I don't suffer with brain fog anymore. And it's all, in my opinion, because of the fact that I've reduced inflammation. I would say about 90% avoid gluten in the current state. Like for a long time, I was like 100% gluten free. Now I can have it here and there, different forms. I'm okay. I don't have any, immediate reactions or things like that, but I manage it, right? And so this is to say that like you're never going to have a 110% pristine, clean diet. Okay. So just know that as we kind of walk through some of these things, yeah, you probably need to make some changes, but we don't expect you to be 100% perfect. The underlying cause here is that all of these things, whether it's gluten or over-consuming, of highly processed carbohydrates and sugar, that all leads to inflammation, and that impacts our memory and our cognitive abilities. And so you might wonder, well, like, how is it possible to lower brain inflammation and oxidative stress? That's the purpose of this podcast. And you've heard us talk about inflammatory fats before. Those play a huge role. All of the industrialized oils, corn oil, soybean oil, cottonseed oil, all of those things, we've talked about how detrimental they are to our health and how they're in so many foods in our stores that people don't even recognize. Like, we were chatting with a client the other day, looking at one of the products that we actually like. And I'm like, wait a second, it's got palm oil in it. We're not using this anymore. We're going to switch you over to, it was a nut butter. And so we like nut butters that are just nuts and salt. But the one that she sent over had palm oil. And it's like, now you're adding inflammatory oils to a good almond butter, right? Like, it should be just almonds and salt. Anyways, I digress on this. And so moving forward, like, you've heard us talk about blood sugar dysregulation and the importance of stabilizing blood sugar, right? Go back and listen to those episodes if you need to. But we're driving this home today because people need to understand that this is your mental health. This is your quality of life beyond the weight, beyond calories, beyond macros. And so let's dive in. Let's talk about what is oxidative stress, first of all. Well, this occurs when there are more free radicals and not enough antioxidants to fight the free radicals. So free radicals are unstable atoms that damage your cells, and they contribute to disease when aging because they weaken your cells. Okay, so we look at food. Sugar, inflammatory fats, and alcohol contribute to more free radical production. So let's take, for example, it's Friday night. What are you likely doing? Probably going out for pizza because you're busy. You've got kids. At the end of the week, you don't want to cook. Maybe you're grabbing a couple of drinks. What do we have here? A whole meal that is just spiking inflammation. A lot of sugar, primarily because it's coming from all of the carbs in the pizza, right? Turns into sugar. Then there's also sugar in some, marinara sauces. The alcohol that you're consuming turns to sugar. It's just an inflammation storm, basically, right?
Yep. Unfortunately, and this is the hard thing, is we want people to be able to enjoy their lives. But if you're having that every single week, you're doing this process every single week where you're consuming a bunch of pizza or fried foods, or you have that quote unquote cheat meal with alcohol included. Sure, in your 20s, you could probably get by. 30s, 40s starts to become a little bit harder, starts to accumulate. It's the accumulation aspect of these things. And so unless you are eating immaculately the rest of the week and working out, with intensity and hold on to a bunch of muscle mass, your body is probably going to struggle to handle that. And it is going to slowly start to break down your cells. Like Liz was saying, unfortunately, these things contribute to higher levels of free radicals within the body. And antioxidants are required to help stabilize free radicals. But if you're just having this stressful lifestyle where it's convenient food, going out to eat, drinks most days because it's a stressful work day, whatever is going on, you've fallen into the habit of wine every few nights because you are going to start seeing the accumulation effect of you're not getting enough vegetables, you're not getting enough things that are providing higher antioxidant levels to your body, more color, more variety. And in turn, now you're ending up with this imbalance of free radicals to that antioxidant that should be stabilizing it. And, so what do we do? Make it in a healthier variation. Maybe you ask your family, let's stay home this week and make our own pizzas, get the kids involved, get a gluten-free crust or get a cauliflower crust, or even just get a regular crust and put your own toppings on it. It's going to be way less oil involved, way less, inflammatory foods. You can add more protein to it. You can pair it with the salad and protein, but try and find ways to make it less bad, for a lack of better words. Make it less detrimental. If you're going to have a couple drinks, try and have water in between and limit per week. Do some batch cooking if it's really stressful for you to make dinner every night or have things prepared. We have an entire meal prep masterclass. We are probably going to be doing another Zoom soon of how to meal prep that we can share on the podcast and link that out. But we need to get ahead of it. We need to get ahead of these things that are probably becoming too much of a normalcy in your day-to-day that are contributing to this decline, essentially, this decline of health. And the sad part is that most people will not do anything about it until they feel bad enough. It's I don't really notice I feel too bad, but it's the under the surface things. It's, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. There was a great quote on a podcast we were listening to the other day that was saying the toxicity level of our world is outpacing our body's ability to cope with it. 30, 40, 50 years ago, we didn't have these problems. And now you're starting to see it with these statistics. You're starting to see basically the impact of, unfortunately, what our food and drug administration in this country has created.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so wild. Really, when you dig into even further research than what we're just, talking about today, and, the drug interactions, we were just talking about this off air. One of our clients is being put on all of these uppers to help support her mood and her memory and her cognition dealing with ADHD. But then on the flip side of that, her sleep is struggling. And so they're putting her on a bunch of sleep medications and downers, right?
Like you got to look at the big picture, you guys, and you got to ask the questions. You got to challenge it. And we get it. It's hard to take your health into your own hands sometimes because, we think we're not as intelligent or we're not as, observant about all these things. Find someone to help, or just start being a huge advocate for your own health. Like if you don't feel right in your gut about something, or if you're being like pushed into a medication or something, ask questions. Why am I being put on this? How long am I going to be on it? What is it going to help? What are the possible side effects? Are there any drug interactions? Could any of these symptoms be correlated because of anything I'm taking? Like, you got to do your own research sometimes. And again, I think that the medical system is great for acute. If you are sick, injured, you need immediate medical attention, go to a hospital, go to a doctor. If you are having health, lifestyle issues, you need to look at your own choices. You need to look at what you're eating. You need to look at what you're putting in your body, what you're not putting in your body, what you're dealing with in terms of stress, because all of these things play a role in the long game.
Yep. The first question that I would always ask if I was being told to go on a prescription medication is, what can I do with my lifestyle habits and routines before I go on medication?
Yep.
What can be done before I need a statin or a PPI or,
blood pressure medication, any of this.
Any of the medication. Honestly, like we've been talking a lot, and we're going to do a couple episodes probably in a few weeks on birth control, just how I feel coming off birth control and actually normalizing my just regular menstrual cycles. Guys, it's totally different. It's wild. That's a different topic for a different day. But that would be the first question that I would ask. If I was being told to go on a medication again, I would want to know, what could I do first to try to help my body do what it needs to do? And so that leads us to talk about antioxidants, right? We want more of the good. We want less of the bad. And so antioxidants, why do we need them? Well, they inhibit oxidation from the free radicals, especially, when we are used to consuming a lot of these store-bought, like convenient food products, right? So it can kind of counteract the deterioration that we're experiencing because of all of these ingredients that are used in processed foods. Additives, preservatives, artificial ingredients, added sugars, all of the things that we, see in foods that have labels, they're doing damage in some way, shape, or form. There's always a cost. You guys have heard us talk about that before. And so examples of antioxidants here would be vitamins and minerals, right? Vitamin C or vitamin E. They can remove potentially damaging oxidizing agents in the living organism. And so this is why we focus on vegetables heavily with our clients. We both drink reds and greens. Reds are full of antioxidants, very, very high antioxidant level in the reds. And so we both take those daily, and they help us fill the gaps, because you guys, you've probably heard me talk about this on the podcast. Like, I eat vegetables, but I am not the person that likes raw vegetables. Like, sometimes I'll do my bag salad kits and stuff, but like, I'm not just sitting down and eating like raw bell peppers or carrots or something. Like, I'll go through little phases where, oh, this is good, or I want those things, but 90% of the time when I'm eating vegetables, it's snuck into my meals, or it's stir fry kits, or it's cooked vegetables. Yep. So what else do we do with our diet? By now, at this point in the podcast and all of the things we talked about, hopefully you're understanding that we need to minimize and avoid refined carbohydrates, a lot of processed sugar, inflammatory oils, right? That's the things that need to go. And so one of my favorite quotes that I heard when I was listening to some other things regarded cognitive decline and, just the food industry and how this is driving, impaired memory or memory loss and things like that, is that if you eat junk food, you're going to have a junk food brain. Your brain is just going to be junk, because all you're giving it is junk and garbage. So if you want to avoid neurodegeneration, which is the progressive degeneration and or death of nerve cells, then you need to avoid the things that cause it.